Looks like we're about leveled up.
All right. Welcome to the Midjourney Weekly Office Hours. We do these every week at Wednesday, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Basically, what we do is we talk about what we're working on and what we're thinking about, and then we take questions. And that's it. So let's get started. The main things we released in the last week were a new version of NiJi and the personalization system. So the new version of NiJi, which is the anime version of anime and sort of Eastern aesthetic version of Midjourney. It writes kanji and other sort of like Japanese and Chinese characters, which is really important for people out there. And I hear people are really enjoying it. And then there's the personalization feature, which basically, I would say, kind of completely customizes the model to you based off your image ratings, likes, pair comparisons. So you can use like midjourney.com/rank. You like rank 200 images, and then you can do this --p feature, and the model kind of completely changes to your aesthetics. And pretty big deal. I think it's something, it's off by default right now, but I think likely for V7 we'll probably turn it on by default. So it'll be pretty different. This a little early, so we're still changing the algorithms a lot. It's not a super stable feature, but I think that for basically everyone who uses it, they prefer the personalization on versus the personalization off. I want to say like 99%. I don't know, some huge percentage. So it really, does make things better. It gets you away from sort of any kind of stereotypical Midjourney look. It kind of pushes things way more into your preferences. And I think it's really the future of Midjourney in a lot of ways. I think everybody should be using it. So if you haven't used it yet, check out the description and the announcements and try to use it. It is definitely worth trying. It can be kind of a deeply personal experience too, I find, because it's not doesn't just figure out like that you like blue. Everything from like the faces and the animals and the lighting and the contrast and the angles, like everything is pretty changed around what it thinks you actually like. You can keep rating images for more than 200. I'm not really sure where it levels off. Maybe like 2,000, 10,000. You can go thousands and it's still, I think it depends a little bit on what your preferences are. Some things kind of converge more quickly and some things to keep going, but it does pick up a lot of nuance. So you can kind of keep rating things and it keeps learning more about you. Every individual rating doesn't really have that much of an effect on it. So you don't have to push the skip button. You don't have to freak out too much about the ratings, but it does, over hundreds and hundreds of ratings, it's able to kind of pick out subtle things. So it's never really looking at one rating very much. It's sort of trying to say, like, based off all the things that you've done in aggregate, what can I kind of say confidently about the person? So if you're inconsistent, it's not going to make it inconsistent. It'll just, it'll just not be like, well, I'm not confident about that. So I'm just going to kind of lean on the default aesthetics for that. So it's a pretty sophisticated system. We've been working on it for over a year. It's going to get more sophisticated as more people use it. And we're going to add more features related to it over the next week. So, yeah. Those are two pretty exciting releases. You might even find that it feels like the image quality is better with the personalization on. I mean, it's not exactly better, but I think people feel like it's better because, there's a lot of different types of images that Midjourney can generate. And with the personalization on, it's kind of always generating the details like you like them, whether it's wispy or pixelated or kind of hazy or sharp. And so it kind of locks that down in a better way that people often feel like the image quality is much better. It's still pretty flexible, so it's like as flexible with personalization on than with personalization off. It's not really overpowering anything, but it just kind of replaces the sort of default Midjourney style with something that it thinks is more specifically tuned to you. As I said, it should be in like 99% of situations. I've heard of, yeah, I think like, yeah, it should be pretty, if you're not, if you don't vastly prefer it, kind of interesting for us, maybe post about it. But it should be, in our experience, pretty much like 99% of people prefer it, um, by a lot. So I think that's really great. It, I think there's only, sometimes we can only make the aesthetics so much better when the aesthetics have to make everybody happy. So now the aesthetics only have to make you happy. It, lets us sort of pull out, make it, I mean, lets us make it a lot better. I do think in V7, the general aesthetics, the default aesthetics will still be better than they are today, but I think to really make it way better from here, it's going to be more and more personalized. So I think that's just where a lot of the stuff is. We will add more tools over time, potentially to sort of like seed lock your personalization, to kind of maybe move through time or make multiple profiles or combine profiles. But we're going to start off simple and build up features over time because, frankly, on many levels, we already have too many features. Like we have more features than people at the company. And um, I think in many ways, the people are getting lost in the complexity of the Midjourney. So we want to add control, but we also have to be careful with how we do it. Ways that make everything sort of like vastly overcomplicated. And so I think in a lot of ways even though like advanced controls are important, I think in a lot of ways we have to sort of stay focused on the sort of core default experience. And although the personalization is not default right now, I think our goal is to make it default in the future, probably around the time of V7. So it's pretty radical shift in how images are generated. So, they were kind of in the testing phase, kind of like how the style tuner, was cool in a lot of ways that I think kind of replaced it with style references. And it's not exactly the same, but I think people use style references like 10 times more than they use the style tuner. Maybe more than that. So, so it's hard to make a feature for everybody, but I think what we try to do is we try to test something. We try to figure out what's good and bad about it. We try to learn. And then we try to make something that, is used by vastly more people. And this is like a core part of the experience. So, yeah, it's going to be a little bumpy, It's always going to be a little bumpy around here because we're at the beginning of a new thing. Just in general, not specifically for personalization, but just in general. And yeah, hopefully you enjoy the bumps, enjoy the ride. So yeah, the next major things coming out are I think we're going to do a release around like combining style codes and combining personalization codes, so people can kind of blend things together more easily. That'll be pretty easy. I think we'll probably release that next week. Right now, the personalization doesn't update necessarily in every way as you do actions all the time. And so we're also going to try to push a new update that kind of updates the personalization sort of more rapidly with your actions. So it'll kind of shift. It'll be more sort of like an ever-evolving thing. So hopefully that'll also be next week. We have like the thumbs up from the team to kind of begin the final, well, hopefully what will be the final training run for what will probably be 6.1 or 6.5. Yeah, I feel like it's going to end up being called 6.5 because, I hope that all the improvements together just feel a lot better. We might also make a pretty big change to the personalization around that time. So it'll just be like, yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty mean version. It's starting to take in a lot of the stuff that we're basically getting ready to ship for V7, but we're kind of shipping it in V6. We're kind of testing a lot of V7 features, but putting them into V6. In some ways, personalization was really a V7 feature because that's when it's going to be default. And in some ways, the image quality improvements we're going to do at 6.5 are really a 7 features because they're going to be on 7 by default. But I think we're trying to kind of take, because it's been a long time since we released anything. We're trying to kind of, drip these things into V6, learn about how people like them, and then, take our time building the V7 model, which is going to be this pretty mean, massive model. Yeah. And We're also going to announce um, a hardcover Midjourney magazine book, I think today or tomorrow. It should go live. So it's like if you haven't gotten all the magazines or you like the magazines, you can kind of order like a giant hardcover, like super edition for the first year. It's gonna look pretty nice. Um, yeah, looks quite nice. So that'll be cool. We're not really making money off of these magazines and books, so this really isn't like a money making thing. It's like a thing to give back to the community, and there are a lot of people who really enjoy these things. So we hope that you're one of them. Um, it could be a really great way to kind of have a thing, a physical object that you can use to show people to help describe to them what Midjourney is. Um, and On that note, we'll also probably try to start giving away more magazine subscriptions to members. Potentially, we're still trying to figure out exactly where it's going to be, whether it's like we try to give more away to like yearly subscribers or maybe we try to give them away more to mega subscribers or pro subscribers. We're trying to figure out exactly what we're going to do there, but we actually want to give away more magazines. And so we're trying to figure out like how many we can give away and like where the best place is to do it. But people just love the magazine so much, and I think there aren't enough of them. There aren't as many out there as there should be. So we're gonna try to make some way of people basically getting them more easily in the future. So that's probably gonna be in a month or two. I'm not sure exactly when that's gonna come, but it's a thing we're trying to figure out right now, like how that might work. Um, yeah. So I mean, I think the biggest next change coming is going to be this sort of 6.5 release. So it's hard to say exactly how long it's going to train. We're putting a lot of compute right now into training it. It's definitely going to take at least 2 weeks. Could take 4 or 5 weeks, but hard to say. Like, does everything just work the first time through? How many things we try to bake in at once? I don't know exactly how long it's going to take, but somewhere between that 2 to 4 weeks. I want to say it's going to be closer to 4 than 2, but maybe we'll get lucky. But the idea is that it's not really a technology or a research thing anymore. It's just like the final training run. So there's basically like 3 new things that have to be done for the 6.5 model. Each of the 3 things have been independently verified. And now we just kind of have to train each one in sequence on the same model. And so I think there's also a hope of updating the upscaler for 6.5. I think there's some debate about whether that's like part of the initial release or whether we do that as a follow-up release, but I'm pretty excited to see an update to the upscaler too. So I think the image quality across the board would be really fantastic. And combined with personalization, it's going to be pretty um, stunning. Not to try to say like Apple things, fantastic, stunning, but I mean, the images are pretty good sometimes, and it's good to, yeah, I think, yeah, they're pretty good. So, and let's see what else. I think V7 is still not really, we're not really training a final V7 yet. We're training sort of small test V7s. So, once we, I think, push the final go button on the V7 training run, that's going to be at least a month. So we haven't started that yet. So, it means it's multiple months to get to V7 still. V7 should still be a pretty mean model. I mean, 6.5, I think, is going to be, I'm sure some people would think that 6.5 is just done, like we're just done with images, but it's not true. There's still more to do. That will be a significant improvement in everyone's lives. So, but 6.5 will be quite formidable. And then the V7 will be, I think we're debating a little bit about how conservative we go with it versus how aggressive we go with it. Um, like, there's a lot of conservative things when we've improved the data a lot for V7, and we've improved the prompt understanding a lot for V7. And then, of course, it'll gain all the image quality improvements, and it should have aesthetic improvements too. But then there's also like a series of more risky improvements related to speed or controllability. And so I think we don't know yet how much of the speed and controllability features will make it in, or whether we like push that to V8. But certainly the V7 will at the very least have all the image improvements, significant prompt and knowledge, uh, like it sort of improvements and better aesthetics. Um, yeah. Any other things? Mm, we've been we're making a lot of small changes to the website right now. I think some of them are going to be good and some of them are going to be bad, and we're going to sometimes break things, and I apologize for that. I think mostly what we're doing is we're running new people to the website every single day, and we're just seeing them like being really fucking confused about a lot of things, and we're trying to kind of simplify and streamline and get it ready for new people to come in. I think in some ways the website is for new people more than it's for existing people, because there's a lot of people who are actually pretty happy on Discord and are kind of like, I'm not moving either way. But so we do want to make sure that when we open up the website to new people, it's not like massively confusing. And one of the challenges about opening the website to new people is like a lot of the new people that are going to be coming to the new website are people who basically couldn't figure out how to make a Discord account. So it's a different type of user than what we already have. And I mean, on some level, like, everyone here is a super genius for figuring out how to use Discord. But we're going to have a lot more regular people, and we want to just make sure it doesn't make everyone really frustrated. So I think we're trying to change a lot of things still, and yeah, we're going to do some things well and some things not well. We'll kind of go back and forth until we're happy with it, and then we're going to start letting in people, like small cohorts of people, into the website and sort of tracking to see how they do in comparison to the ones that come into Discord. And then as we sort of track those metrics and improve those edge cases, we'll like increase the number of people coming into the website until we flip it to everyone. So, those are all things that we're looking at doing. So we're doing this sort of very slow rollout, and just because there's this, like, if we only had 10 people joining the website a day, it wouldn't really matter. But there are just so many people who join Midjourney every single day. If we do something that breaks, we're just like, we have to be a little careful. It's unfortunate. Um, it's unfortunate, but I think in general, like any kind of platform shift like this is relatively rare and challenging. So I think it's one of the most uncertain things that we're doing, but and a lot of like one of the hardest, like we know we can do everything, but obviously we could make a website. We could just copy exactly everything in Discord and put it outside of Discord. But I think because the website we were trying to make it better and different. It's like we're kind of having to learn a lot of things from scratch in the process of doing that, and some of them are going to be right and wrong. Just kind of how like we were doing this on Discord over a year or two. And so, some ways like building a good website that's as good. Like in some ways, like the Discord product is like multiple years in the making. And so, if we make a new thing that's not exactly the same, it's going to take multiple years to make it sort of as mature. But unless we just literally copy Discord, which in hindsight, I think might have been a nice thing to do. I don't think it's going to be something that we end up doing here. So, yeah, kind of a tricky situation, but I think in the long run, it's not going to matter because there's still so many things that are changing, and yeah, there's still so many things that are changing, and we like haven't really seen like we're nowhere close to like a real form of the technology. Like, yeah, we're not like real time video, 3D, like open world simulations. Like it's just we're nowhere near like all those stuff functionality, and obviously something that has all that functionality is going to have a totally different interface. So yeah, like in some ways, I think the challenge of the website is we're building a platform for something that's in constant flux. And in some ways, one of the nice things about Discord is because everything's command line, it's just like easier to add things. Kind of makes everything worse, but like it also makes everything more flexible. And so there's sort of this like trade-off between like flexibility and quality and speed. And I think the website is trying to focus more on quality than like speed of iteration and flexibility. But I think some of that was a mistake. So I think we've made a lot of mistakes on the website. But I think on the whole, like it is pretty good, and it's going to get better, and it's going to keep getting better forever. So We find that most people who use the website do prefer the website. So, um, you know, the sort of the numbers speak for themselves. But most people have not used the website yet. So the majority of people on Midjourney have not used the website once yet. We haven't pushed really hard out to people. I think a lot of people are just like in the DMs with the bot and not really paying attention. So we haven't been pushing it out a lot yet, but we do see other people who do use it. Sort of almost everybody prefers the website so far. So we'll see. Um, we do look at how much people use features. So, sometimes somebody will complain about a feature, and we'll be like, literally only 2% of people use that. And so we have to try to focus on things that affect like 50% of people before we focus on things that, 1% of people use. And so unfortunately, 1% of people is still like going to be thousands and thousands of people. So, tens of thousands of people, like it's going to be a lot of people. But So it's easy to get like 10,000 people who are angry when you affect 1%, like a 1% feature. So it makes it pretty hard to, you know, I think like people are, we're sort of built for small tribes, and it's really easy to handle the feelings of like 3 or 4 people, and like if 99% of people are happy and you only have 10 people in your life, that means everyone's happy. But then when you operate at scale with millions of people, 1% of people is still 10,000 people. So you kind of end up in this weird situation where like, you know, you kind of end up in the situation where you kind of always have tens of thousands of people who are upset, and you can't really empathize fully. Like it's hard to maintain like a full empathy for like millions of people. Like it's just you burn out. And so we try to kind of stay slightly detached, look at the numbers, try to make things good, try to take some feedback, and do our best. But it is like, yeah, it's one of the reasons why you tend not to have any platforms that have a lot of people on it that actually iterate, because it kind of like emotionally drains you. But we'll try to do our best. We're going to try to add more community stuff to the website. I think that's a big area that the website is not great at right now. We're going to try to improve the help resources. We're going to add more stuff to the Explorer. There's a lot of things that we are definitely working on adding. We'll definitely take some new feedback at some point. Probably after like we release 6.5 or I don't know, V7, we'll do like another round of idea submissions and voting. Try to get a sense of what everybody wants us to work on. But I think that as we get things to being sort of like moving towards the sort of MVP for open public access. So I think we're going to sort of move towards like an MVP for open public access, and that'll happen somewhere between V6 and V6.5 and V7. And then when all that comes together, we'll do like a new season of like ideas and voting on the rate ideas board, and that'll help us figure out what to do next. But I think right now, like broadly, we're working on the right thing. Um, um, we're gonna do a psychometrics survey, demographic survey rather, um, probably this week. So it's going to be a survey that asks you a lot about yourself. It might seem like a little personal. You might not be happy with all the questions. You don't have to answer them, obviously. But what it's going to do is it's going to help us like study the connection between like aesthetics and like demographics. Like how does age affect like age or gender or like religion or like where you're born like affect aesthetics? And I think we're going to try to publish stuff back out and even let people like potentially not just like explore each other's aesthetics, but maybe actually like set demographic parameters on their prompts and be like, I want to make images in the style of a 30-year-old man in Japan or something, and sort of let people explore the sort of demographic aesthetic space of the world. And so I think we're gonna do that. But yeah, I know some people are not gonna like it, some people are gonna like it, but I think it's one of those things where like I think it's one of those things where like, what are we focused on, right? We're focused on like expression and exploration and reflection. And I think that like letting people, you know, sort of play around with understanding how like our sense of aesthetics are different in different places of the world and different types of people in the world. It's definitely going to hurt some feelings and get some people riled up, but I think I don't know. I mean, I'm going to try it before I release it, but I think it might be one of those things that's good. Yeah, like it's like there's like truth and then there's feelings and then like you know how like do we want to like live our lives in the pursuit of truth or like purely feeling? And I think, when you're doing images, it's kind of a weird thing, right? Because there's like, a little bit of both, but I think that I think it might make us more aware. So I think it'll be there's something about like expanding the awareness of like the world, the like, aesthetic awareness of the world, and I think that it seems kind of interesting and good. But we'll see. Um, yeah, so I mean, people don't have to fill out the survey. We'll give like some fast hours for it. Um, but I mean, we might see actually like we'll see how granular we'll get and everything. I don't know. It feels like it's interesting. Remember, our goal is also to kind of get the we want to get like personalization by default. So we're trying to also figure out like where aesthetics come from. And so if we can like ask people some combination of questions about themselves and like which images you like better, and I don't know, it feels like something we should be like exploring those. And so we're gonna do a demographic survey first, and then I think we're going to do a psychometric survey after that. And so the demographic survey is to try to understand like what in demographics affect aesthetics, and then we'll do a psychometrics things, which is more of like psychologically, like how is our psychology and related to our aesthetics. I think broadly the question is like where do aesthetics come from, you know? And I'm very curious about that. I think it's important to try to understand it and not leave it as like a purely random thing. Um, like for example, there is some evidence so far that like um, there's some evidence that like men and women have different aesthetics, but I think it might actually be less related to like culture. It might be more related to like estrogen. Like it seems like it's possible that women actually have like are more sensitive to color, and it may be related to like a hormone. Like there may actually be like a hormonal trigger for color sensitivity or something. And so it's very interesting to think about trying to understand like how people see the world differently. Yeah, so we're not planning on using the demographics to changing. We're not planning on using the demographics right now on the personalization like current algorithms, but I think we're just trying to understand how it's related. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think it's what kind of I think I kind of want to explore it. I don't really know exactly what I'm going to do with it, but I think it's like I want to know things, and I think it'd be a little weird if you know, it'd be a little weird if we were trying to understand aesthetics and then we kept the knowledge from everybody. So I think there's an argument that we should be trying to understand things, and then we should be trying to like let other people understand things. And so we'll see. Yeah, so we're gonna do a bunch of these surveys and we'll have fast hour rewards for them all. Um, and yeah, I'll very much appreciate everybody who answers them. And it's kind of like allowing a very different, it's a pretty, yeah, this is like a pretty new frontier, you know? Like one example actually of the demographic survey, it's going to ask you if you have color blindness, and if so, what kind. And actually, this is a great example of like if we have enough people's ratings and we know whether they're colorblind, we can actually make a version of Midjourney that's specifically optimized for people with color blindness. And it's really interesting to ask, like, what would it be like if we had some alternative universe where all of art was made by, like, or basically everybody in the world was colorblind, and all of art and like culture was sort of optimized for that, right? And so, I think that like having like I think that's like a great example of like I think it's a great example of like there definitely should be some demographic questions, and they should definitely affect your Midjourney experience. Um, like yeah, like color blindness, I think is a great example. Um, what other things are equally important to color blindness? Very hard to say, but we'll know. So basically, the second we have the surveys and we have the data, we can say like which things affect people's aesthetics how much. And so I don't really know what is going to affect what, but I think we'll have those answers like within a week, basically, of the survey. Um, and so I think that's really interesting to me. Yeah, we're also going to have a aphantasia thing in there too, like can you visualize things easily or not? And so that'll be really interesting to kind of understand that. Like, um, I think there's like a lot of subtle things that'll be really interesting. Yeah, we're gonna have something about education and upbringing. We're putting a bunch of things in. Um, yeah, and I don't. It's hard to. It's sort of. Yeah, you can skip any question. Basically, the fast hour rewards will be proportional to how many questions you ask. You want me to answer? Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, so there'll be a psychometric survey that'll be way more psychological, and that's not the demographic survey. The demographic survey is like how old are you, where were you born, do you exercise, are you colorblind, things like that. The psychometric one will be really, really interesting. The psychometrics are, yeah, and so I mean, kind of the question is going to end up being yeah, where do aesthetics come from? And in theory, if we do the psychometric surveys and we do the demographic surveys, it should cover most of the stuff in theory. Like, unless there's something that comes just like, I mean, purely based off of Like, did you have a cat or dog or something? I mean, that could be a question too at some point. Yeah, you'll be able to delete your survey results at some point if you want to, so we're going to add that for these things. I mean, it's like billing data, right? You give your credit card number to a lot of companies, and it's like a solved problem on how to make it so your credit cards generally don't leak. So, you know, if we're allowed to charge your credit card, we can probably handle something saying if you're, you know, how old you are or something. We're holding off on the captioning party right now. Um, but yeah, actually, well, let's go. I think it's time to go to a lightning round. I think that's you can throw questions in the VC text, and I'll try to answer questions for a bit. We're gonna change the remix stuff. We'll probably rename it from remix to like reprompt or edit prompt or something. We find that like the word remix is like confusing as fuck to any new person. It has no idea, completely unclear what that means, and so we don't want to have buttons that like don't make any sense. We are gonna change it. You can hide images on the web. There isn't like a delete. And hiding is kind of the same thing as deleting, except for that you can unhide things. And like when you deleted things on Discord, it's not like we delete the images. Like if you delete things with the X button, we don't delete the images still because we keep them for moderation purposes. If you delete all of your data, then we delete things, which have to like delete your account. Um, I think that's how it works. Um, if you make an older model, you'll use an older upscaler. Personalization is based off explore likes and pair ratings. Feels like somebody says it feels like personalization is focusing on generalized personal style rather than small, unintuitive decisions about general thematics. I don't really know what that means. I'm sorry, man. Will it be possible to make multiple CREF in one image? Yeah, I think it will be, but I'm not sure when. Mm. I've not heard anything about Imgur links not working. Kind of interesting. I'll post that in the engineering channel.
That's a known issue. It's a thing that Imgur changed on their side.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I'm not even sure how that would block it. Like, what are they blocking? Discord? Are they blocking like our specific server? I don't really know how that works. It seems weird. Um, Questions on morality for the survey. We're not going to be asking morality questions on the demographic survey because the demographics is about demographics, not about morality questions. But when we do the psychometric survey, there may be questions that are related to your sense of what is right and what is wrong. I think asking questions in surveys is fine. If you're asking me if asking questions in a survey and an optional survey is moral, I think the answer is yes. Um, um, I think V7 will be a pretty big jump, but it's going to be a little different because of 6.5 will like use in theory be all the image improvements for V7. So I think the jump between V6 and V7 will be bigger than V5 to V6, but I think 6.5 to V7 maybe not, maybe feel different. So, but it's hard to know. Like maybe V7 will be way faster. So it's like one feature in V7 might make it feel like non-linearly better. SREF and CREF interact with personalization when you use it. Um, you can't revert ratings, but you can rate more images, and it is pretty robust. We are going to add more remix features, but we're looking at a new UI for it on the website. We are going to do animation and video at some point, but it's going to be a slow. We don't really want to release something shitty, and everyone else is making stuff that looks pretty shitty. So we're going to probably have to take our time and make something that's not bad. Like our stuff's always been good, and people have always felt like our stuff is good. So whereas like all the video just looks bad, and we could make the videos like look more stylish, but I think the quality would still be bad if we're not careful. So we have to be careful and make something good. So we will eventually have something that is moving. You can use in painting if you want to try changing the stocking in an image. It's very region or repaint, depending on where you're looking at it. I'm feeling better. Can't really personalize Midjourney to make unsafe stuff. We are gonna try to improve the um we're gonna improve the sort of like website in painting reframing feature and try to mix everything together into like a singular editor at some point, but we're kind of in progress on that. Reimagine is an interesting word. How much data is V7 trained on in comparison to V6? A lot more. I don't think we know exactly how much, but a lot. In theory, your personalization should update like constantly as you rate things. But the likes are not updating right now, and so that's going to happen later. I don't think the team is planning on updating the NiJi 6 model further. Um, yeah, it's definitely worth giving more feedback back to that team, but I think they're not plan. I think that they're. I think anytime you change the model a little bit, it's going to break something. And so I think they made the kanji better, and they probably made some other edge cases worse. And I think their feeling is that the kanji is more important, but I don't know. It's probably not. I don't think they're going to keep working on it. Yeah, there's a little magnifying glass on the website. If you click it next to your image on the light box, it will search for more images that are similar to your image that other people made. So you can kind of look for other people making similar images to you. We don't have a way to dump all of your rankings right now, but maybe one day in the future. Stylization isn't really prompt adherence. It's more of the style, how strong the style is. Wade. We're not updating a new version of CREF for V6. Maybe in V7. Well, V7 should be much better for CREF. We don't do a lot of we don't do a lot of tests for CREF and Vary. So in theory, it shouldn't. But interesting. We are going to have a lot of edge cases because we have like 100 features that can be used with each other. So there's like 1,000 ways of everything. So it's um, the survey data is mainly meant to be linked to your likes and ratings because we're trying to look at the aesthetics. I think I don't know if our databases are like fully broken down yet, but if you like delete your account or delete the survey, that's the best way to sort of delink things if you want it for now. Trying to find where we were. Yeah, the Apple AI stuff is funny. Apple Intelligence was probably like one of the most cringe corporate buzzwords I've ever heard. But, you know, it's funny if you went back in time and like 15 years ago and said, like, I bet you $1 million that Apple will be the most cringe, like one of the most cringe companies in the world in like 15 years, no one would believe you. So it's really interesting that like Apple went from like inspirational mega brand to like cringe central. But, you know, it's really because Apple was built around Steve Jobs, with like a very delicate executive team. And when Steve Jobs died, it was like not really meant to survive him. And I think it kind of blew apart. And so in some ways, it's kind of amazing that Apple actually works as well as it does still, but it was not really meant to run in this fashion. Um, I haven't gotten to play with some of the new models that people are releasing, but mostly working on Midjourney. We're gonna change the repaint and reframe user interfaces totally. Um, you cannot reset the personalization right now. Have I heard anything about Dolly 4? Bro, I don't know if there's gonna be a Dolly 4. I mean, I guess. I don't know. I think people are pretty focused on other things right now in the industry. Like everyone's just trying to focus on having the best personal assistants. Um, yeah, I don't know if the V7 will initially release with all the V6 features or not. But we'll kind of see. Probably not, but it'll probably update over time. If you keep creating the same image over and over, it won't affect personalization. How will you avoid bias in the survey? Well, the survey is going to ask you questions like how old are you? So I hope people aren't that biased about like how old they are or what country they were born in. So I think the demographic thing is not going to be as big of an issue there. We are going to update the reframing thing. We're not hiring game developers right now. Likes do not currently refresh inside the personalization, but they're going to refresh in the future. I don't know if there's going to be a 6.5 NiJi. Um, I want to say there probably won't be, but we'll see. Remix strong and very strong are basically the same, but one changes the prompt. So yeah, we think remix in general is like super fucking confusing. So we're trying to figure out a better way to make it easier for people to understand. Um, no, we're not gonna open source any models for the foreseeable future. Um, we're gonna change the remix and edit prompt interface. Again, people keep asking, try not to ask the same question over and over again. You can already make Midjourney faster, but worse. There's like a there's the dash dash Q 0.5 makes it twice as fast. 0.25 makes it 4 times faster. Maybe I'll do a fun Silicon Valley story later. People have to ask again later for something specific. We don't change your prompt. We want to kind of keep your prompt, you know, clean. Um, I think you can do custom Zoom stuff on the website. I think the NiJi team is really more focused on like a Japanese user more than they're focused on like an American user who likes anime. Sorry about that. But I think the goal is that the V7 model should make people. I mean, it's possible that everything was merged together in V7 and there won't be like different models anymore. There'll be like different modes of the same model, but we'll see. Um, yeah, don't really worry too much about the ratings. Like every rating has a very small effect. I can't really. I think in theory, remix and very strong are the same, but maybe there's some subtle difference. In theory, explore and ratings affect things similarly. Do I know Sam Altman well? Um, Depends on what you know by what you mean by knowing someone well. Like, I think I first met Sam 10 years ago. So I've kind of known him on and off for 10 years. We've spent probably um, a few dozen hours together. Yeah, so I've probably spent a few dozen hours with him over 10 years. So I don't know if that, hard to know what that means. But yeah, we've known each other for a while. Um, there will be better upscaling, I think, in 6.5, but it's mostly going to be like the pixel level upscale, I think. I don't think you need to skip images for the personalization. Yeah, I don't think NiJi, I think NiJi has some different data in it than the normal V6 model, and that's not going to be true in the V7, as far as I know. Um, yeah, I think we're just going with hide instead of delete on the web. Yeah, I mean, remix is definitely a powerful feature, but almost nobody uses it ever. So I think we're still trying to figure out how to, what to do about that. I'm a little mixed on it sometimes. Like, honestly, a lot of the features are pretty cool. Um, I think remix is almost never used in general. I think it's like a rare, it's like 1%, small percentage. But I mean, 1%, 10% of people is still a lot of people. We're not taking it away. We're just trying to figure out how to change how it's presented. Like, we're thinking of calling it like, yeah, edit prompt or something. Reprompt. I kind of like reprompt maybe instead of remix, but we'll see. Okay, I think we're starting to peter out a little bit. Um, the Midjourney future stuff. I think like we're always going to have features that are different from other people. Like we're gonna have features that other people don't have, and other people are gonna have features that we don't have. And I don't really want to get up every day and just try to implement other people's features. So I think I'm just gonna kind of do what I think is important. I'm definitely like survey the community and see what people want to. I don't think we want to have a basic and advanced version of the website because I think we're already having a hard time having one version of the website. Um, cool. I think that we're petering out. So I guess we could do a few voice questions. And then I'll do one more lightning round and then we'll call it a day. So if anybody wants to come up on the stage and talk about some voice things.